Okay, so it was Thursday, November 1st, 2012, and I was a junior in college, but this date has a whole new meaning for me now. It's the date that solidified the next 7.5 years that put us on this very call today, a moment in time brought to you by social media. GitLab co founder Dimitri tweeted out to the universe that he was ready to start working on GitLab full time, moving his passionate side hustle to the center of his career. I want to work on GitLab full time, the tweet read. In that moment, all it took was for the right person to see a single tweet. I saw your tweet about wanting to work on GitLab full time. Let's chat. Our CEO, Sid, replied to Dimitri's tweet in an email. This one tweet changed everything for GitLab as a product, as a company, and for each of our careers. That's how impactful social media can be when done authentically. I'm Kristen, and for those of you who haven't had the chance to either meet or Zoom with me, I'm your Senior Social Marketing Manager. I work with Will Spillane. We're a powerful team of two, and together we're bringing 15 years of experience in social to GitLab. I've been with GitLab since October, and prior to, I managed social for another computer software company. But before that, I was a recruiter. So personal branding is something I'm extremely passionate about. It's essentially where my two worlds collide. And that's why I'm excited to have this opportunity to work with each of you today. Together, we will walk through some tips and tricks on using your own social media channels for personal and professional success. There will be a workshop portion, so please, in preparation for that, start to log in to your LinkedIn and Twitter accounts. Have that open in a separate window. That way that you can still follow along with this presentation. Again, please submit your questions throughout in the Google Doc. If your questions aren't actually answered live, we do have my friend Will answering those throughout. So first, I wanted to share our team's primary purpose. We use social to align on one main goal of promoting GitLab as a loved brand. How do we do that? We do that by contributing to strategic conversations that mean a lot to us, such as CI/CD, all remote, DevOps, our employer brand, our product, and open source, which all leads right back to our community. And at GitLab, we share relevant content to our followers in the form of blogs, product releases, third-party content, live event coverage, and we also interact with the dev community, whether that's with a simple like, comment, or share. Okay, so now we're going to kick off that workshop portion of this session. That said, if you haven't already, please log into your LinkedIn and Twitter accounts in a separate window so that, again, you can follow this presentation. And I want you to remember one thing. Use today as an opportunity to help define your brand identity. And if you're new to social, or if you find it overwhelming, just think of these social media platforms as your tool stack. So a common misconception about LinkedIn is that it's a platform to simply host your resume online, much like a personal website. Fun fact, there are more than 675 million members on LinkedIn. So how do you stand out? The answer is by personalizing your profile. This will actually help you start to get noticed. So first, have a professional photo. Don't use strange filters or have a distracting background behind you. For example, my first job out of college, I honestly had a waterfall behind me and I took that photo with a selfie stick. It didn't make much sense for the industry that I was in. Another fun fact for you guys, users who have a photo see about 21 times more profile views. So now I want you to ask yourself, what does your LinkedIn say about you? In my example, by incorporating a simple headline, my audience is aware of the work that I specialize in at first glance. Oftentimes, titles at companies may not truly reflect the work that you do. For example, in my last position, I was a senior marketing specialist. That was simply because social media didn't exist to HR on the back end. So use your headline to be captivating and provide a focus area. Now, the About Me section of your summary is a great opportunity to really establish your personal brand. So you need to think about what you want people to know once you get here. But before writing your summary, you should know the relevant keywords in your industry, or at least the key things that you want to be known for. In this screenshot of my profile, you'd be able to see that I describe myself as a digital marketer focusing on social media projects that deliver superior performance across the web, including aggressive follower and engagement growth. I also make sure to call out the importance of voice and establishing connections, because these are the fundamentals that I believe in when I'm sharing the importance of social media. So whether I'm at an event, a happy hour, or even a family party, these are the natural conversation points that I hit when I'm asked about what I do. Now, your summary should be personal and reflect who you are. This is your brand. That's actually why I've woven me throughout. I have specific call outs to Boston and getting my fur niece featured on influencer doggo accounts. And I even plug myself as a human wedding hashtag generator. Little fun fact, Lady has actually been featured on golden_pups, and they have nearly 80,000 followers on Instagram. And finally, provide a call to action. I know not everyone will have a personal website to redirect to, but you can always invite people to either follow you on Twitter or send a connection via LinkedIn. Your description on LinkedIn should have an opening summary and then include specific details. Use this as another opportunity to explain what you do and who you do it for. Use measurable stats and dates. So for example, in my last job I have in this screenshot, I was that senior marketing specialist who built a corporate-wide social media program, but I also include specific follower and engagement growth, a total budget that I managed, and I make sure to mention the teams that I cross-functionally worked with. And to relate to my team members here on the call today, if you did click that See More button, if you're on my profile, you would see a listed OKR. LinkedIn now also allows you to attach media to your job. So I featured my published blog posts, which is a really great way to bring visibility into the work that you do. And it's also driving traffic back to a company's website. This is a great example of something that will start to help you pop up in searches on LinkedIn. So enough about me. I wanted to shine some social star light on another team member. What I like about Sean Winter's LinkedIn at first glance is the headline. Sean positions himself as a remote work expert and a GitLab enthusiast. This really highlights a unique set of traits. Now, what I love about Sean's profile is the featured section. Sean isn't just claiming to be an expert in a specific space or passionate about a certain thing. Displayed here are real examples of content that back that statement up. This is a very visually appealing way to tell your story. So now that your profile is in better visual shape, how do you craft the perfect post? On LinkedIn, you have more characters to get creative with and provide your audience a variety set of formats. This enables you to switch things up for your networks. So by incorporating, say, bulleted lists, statistics, quotes, or even phrasing a question, your article will now have a longer post life. And what I mean by that is just by simply switching up your copy, you can share that piece of content more than once. You also want to make sure that you provide a clear CTA so that your network knows what they are clicking into. In this example here, it is clear that I'm sharing about an event and ticket sales. So my users are most likely able to understand, they'll probably be redirected to a registration page. Tag whenever you can, because this expands the reach of your posts. So if you tag, say, GitLab, like in this example, anyone following that page will now see this post in their newsfeed. Another example of tagging could be if you wanted to actually tag, say, the author of the article that you're sharing. And another form of tagging is use hashtags. You want to use hashtags as a way to have your content pop up in strategic conversations. But do not use more than 3 hashtags per post, as anything more is too distracting. You also should think about it in the sense of, if you're sharing more than 3 hashtags, you're sharing more than 3 opportunities for somewhere to click other than the link that you're sharing. Be visual. Do you have a photo or video that corresponds with the URL that you share? Fun fact, posts with an image receive about 90% more engagement than posts without an image. And finally, don't forget to engage with your networks. This is especially crucial for LinkedIn. LinkedIn's newsfeed, its algorithm, it's tailoring and prioritizing the posts that you see based off of your connections and the topics that you're interacting with. So to better personalize your newsfeed, I do have a few tips and tricks. So first, you would need to start building out your networks. Create more diverse connections. Don't just be connected with your team members. Another tactic is to start leaving likes, comments, any type of engagement on posts that truly do spike your interest. And the third tip is something that I actually do. I click that 3 dots at the top right of a post, and I'll click hide post. I do that when I think I'm seeing too much duplicated content, and that is a simple way to start getting that algorithm to show less of that. Okay, so now we're going to pause and do an activity. You can follow along in a new window. If you're in the desktop view, click your photo of your LinkedIn profile, then click View Profile. I'm going to give you like a few seconds to actually get to your LinkedIn. I want you to be able to see this chat feature in this platform and your LinkedIn profile so you can follow along. So we know that tackling a brand refresh all at once is overwhelming, and honestly, it's probably too time consuming. So first, I want you to think of the things on your profile that you can keep. This can be done right now. In fact, I want you to start typing into this chat feature the things on your LinkedIn profile that you can keep. And I'll start seeing what answers come up here. Again, yeah, great, yay. Yes, I would love to see some poems. The About Me section is great if you can actually keep that, because that means you've actually put a lot of work into that. Your photo, as long as you have it professional, awesome. The description, photo, personal information. Yeah, if you've mastered that, that's fantastic. You actually will have less work to do later on. The certificates, yes. And your current experience. Good photo, good banner. Awesome. Okay, so now I want you to think about the things that you can plan to change or add in the next few weeks. So again, in the chat feature of this platform, what are some things that you think you can plan to commit to changing after today's virtual contribute? That was my little commit joke. The About Me section for sure. Another fun fact of me, I'm constantly changing my About Me section. That's something that you should consistently work on. Yes, Will does have an old profile picture. That's something you can plan to change. The About Me section, title and photo. You should absolutely change your job title if it's not accurate. And yes, adding a feature block would be something that will take time and you should build up. And I did just receive a question actually. I guess constantly changing it, maybe I shouldn't say that, but when I feel like I'm adding new responsibilities or I have like a new passion, I do make sure to update that about me section to truly reflect the person that I currently am. So obviously when I switched positions, when I was interviewing actually with GitLab, I spent a lot of time in that about me section. And I have actually gone in since starting at GitLab and just cleaned it up a bit. All right, so let's move on. So, okay, now before we break for a Q&A specifically for LinkedIn, I have a quick tip. You don't want your networks to be notified each and every time you're making several changes to your platform. So during a brand refresh, you want to make sure that the changes to your profile toggle is actually clicked to no. Once your profile is in better shape, absolutely change this back to yes. But the reason being is because if you plan on making several changes in a short period of time, your networks don't need to see these several, say, like about me edits, like every word that you change, or maybe you're every single day adding a lot of bullet points. Your networks don't need to see that, the constant changes. You want them to be notified with like a big change, say like if your title changes. I'm going to actually walk you through this really quickly. So bear with me, I gotta play the video. So to access this feature, you would click me, click settings and privacy, scroll until you see how others see your job changes. Oh, yeah, you'll scroll until you see the job changes, education changes. So click the word change on the right. Now switch that toggle to no. And again, you can change this back to yes once you've completed your brand refresh. I wouldn't worry about this if you're making changes with a lot of space in between. This is specifically a recommendation when you are truly going through a brand refresh, which is what I'm recommending. Exit out of that video. Okay. So now we're going to break for any LinkedIn specific questions. If you haven't already, type your questions into that Google Doc. Thank you, Tina, for adding that in again. So I'd like you to follow the format of your name, colon, and then phrase your question, because I will actually, if you want, have you verbalize that question. And don't worry if you feel like we didn't actually get to your question. I have my friend Will answering them in the doc throughout. But in the spirit of time, we will only answer a few on this. So let me
So
go
Kristen,
over
can
here.
I ask a really quick question?
Yes.
As the moderator, and I didn't actually type it in, so I apologize. I'm trying to dual screen and all this stuff. But here's one of the things that I have with LinkedIn is I get a tremendous amount of sales folks trying to contact me and sell me something. So a lot of my experience on purpose, I have limited. I've seen an increase of this solicitation since joining GitLab. In my entire career of being on LinkedIn. How do you avoid all of that? Is there ways that you can kind of get around that with being able to promote yourself? Because I feel like I can't promote myself anymore because I feel like that I would get a lot more.
And so are you talking about are you receiving inboxes in mail?
Yes.
Or are you talking, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you meant posts. So I honestly take the time and I reply to these individuals. I say thank you, but I'm not currently, sometimes it's for jobs, sometimes it's looking for information.
Yep.
Yeah, so I would honestly reply to these individuals because these are real messages that they're sending. So it's a real person that's behind that profile. I honestly say, just take me off your list. I'm not currently either looking for opportunities if it's for a job, or I'm not interested in this product right now. I do
Okay,
take
so
that time.
you can
Yeah.
kind of say remove.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Great. Oh, Darren, that's a great recommendation actually. So Darren just recommended to actually in your profile add not a qualified lead in the text of your profile. That's something new, and now I'm learning something new today.
Oh, that's
so that's
amazing.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
it's great.
Okay, so I'm going to pop into that questions doc. Okay, let's go with, so if Darwin, you want to actually in the platform request to participate, and we'll have you verbalize your question and add any context, please, if you feel like you need to add there, because I did see
He is coming in now.
quite a bit there.
It'll take a
Okay.
few minutes, a few seconds for him to be live.
Yes to Hugh Jackman profile photos for Craig's test there in
Will.
the chats.
Do it.
I mean, you got to
we have
test
you-
everything. The importance of
Exactly.
testing on social media.
Let's also have Christoph request access to participate. Again, for the folks on the call today, there's that blue button at the top right.
So I'll ask Christoph if he can go on mute because the mics come in hot. So
Got it. And those will be our verbalized one. Again, if your questions aren't answered live in the session, we are proactively answering those in the doc throughout.
Darwin is saying it seemed to kick me into a different session or room. Oh, that's weird.
Oh, well, please come back.
I know. Come back to us, please. We have Christoph. You want to jump to him really quick? Christoph, can you hear us?
Sure, there's something wrong with my camera, but anyways.
I know you're yellow. I'm not sure why.
It's
Yeah,
for Snapchat.
There you are.
Yeah,
I know why.
It's
You
a
had
Snapchat,
Snapcam.
so- yeah, exactly. Having fun with the kids as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, my question is basically, is there such a thing as a best time of the day to have a post there, well, on LinkedIn, or doesn't it really matter? Because I can imagine that if there would be such a thing as a best time of the day, that everybody would do that at the same time as well.
Yes. So this is a great question. Honestly, my answer for this changed drastically when I started working for GitLab, because we're located all over the world, and a lot of time for our branded channels alone, it's times that are like the best opportune time to post or when I'm sleeping. So you have to think about the time zone that you're in. So think about your network. And so if you're in sales at GitLab and you're covering a specific time zone or like region, you want to be thinking about when they're actually on LinkedIn. So dinner time, lunch time, very early in the morning. But I would say specifically, again, for GitLab specifically, it's not always a normal time, I guess I would say. I'll also have Will pop in with if he has anything to add there for times.
Yeah, no, I think the idea of trying to discover where your network is most and trying to understand what that looks like as far as like ideas in your country or region are probably going to be best. So like a way like America, in that people are on as they're going to work, sometime in the middle of the day around lunch, and then just work. You usually see peak use times on LinkedIn during lunch and during commute times for those of us who don't get to work remotely. For other cultures that work in that same way, where it's like 9 to 5 general work, in an office, they'll tend to have the same periods of time, but that also will change if the culture doesn't work that way. So a good example of that would probably siestas or have periods of the day that they're not working. Those will likely be heavier periods versus where in the morning that might not be the same thing. So really it kind of goes back to testing your audiences and making sure that you know what region you're in completely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And then just, Christoph, don't forget to click the leave blue button at the top right so we can continue. And then did we lose, is Darwin able to get?
Yeah, he's experiencing some technical difficulties. We're going to skip down to Joe Randazzo. Thanks, Joe, for joining us.
Hi.
He's number 4.
Hey, Kristen, this has been awesome. Question I had here was, are animated GIFs supported in LinkedIn? I'd like to show like a quick feature, which I think could be visually helpful. And I don't know if it's like effective on LinkedIn. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
So after this presentation, I'll actually personally send you a URL to a GIF site that I use, and it turns it into a video. So whatever GIF you have, it actually changes it into a video, and that is how you'll be able to attach it to LinkedIn. So I'll add that there. It's a free tool. It's great. I've used it before. So video is a great opportunity to upload natively to LinkedIn. So I highly recommend that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Great. And now we have Darwin.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I've Googled and found a few sites where you can go look at hashtags, and it shows like a chart of related ones and how popular they are. I'm just wondering, and that reminds me of doing search engine optimization for long tail, which I've typically done on very technical posts. So my two questions are, is there a go-to site for that? And should you even bother try to do long tail hashtags, or is that kind of like antithetical to hashtags?
So I'm going to first answer it in just a hashtag general concept. You want to use hashtags as a way for your content to pop up in a very meaningful strategic conversation. So a great example would be, like we recently had a GitOps blog. That's not necessarily one of the largest conversations that's happening right now for GitLab, because we actually use the term infrastructure as code, but we want that to start being a term that we use. So that's a meaningful way to use a hashtag and to start entering that conversation. So you don't really need to worry about the volume and like the most trending hashtags, because you just want it to be a way that your content's popping up where you think people would want to see it. Does that help answer your question?
It does, except actually the thing you just mentioned is what I'm trying to find, so that IAC and GitOps would be related, so that it would be synonymous, considered synonymous somehow, and have something automatically tell me that rather than me have to sit around or ask people.
Yeah, so actually you can still search for key terms not in a hashtag form. So for example, actually with the Git challenge that we recently had, I was doing a text search in Twitter just really quickly, and I just did GitLab space GitHub, and that your searches are still pulled. So people still will use, say, Twitter searching capability as a way to find things. It doesn't always have to be in like a hashtag form. So if you wanted to find posts that had both hashtag GitOps and infrastructure as code, you would quite literally type that into the search engine. Did that help answer your question? And then we'll obviously add anything if you wanted. Oh, Darwin, your audio just cut out. Sorry about that. I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I'm more looking for, like, if I know the term IAC, but I don't know that GitOps would be a great way to get more precise exposure or better exposure. How do I find that? I don't even know the search engine I've gone to, but you type in one hashtag and it'll show you these ones appear to be related. Like it gives you a lexical model of
kind of like a word cloud.
Yeah,
like Keyhole.
Oh, okay.
But
using Keyhole would be something like that. I think it's just keyhole.co, but we can link it in the doc here as well, is a way to help research hashtag use and then maybe associated hashtags. So it'll give you some data on what people are associating those tags with, or maybe other hashtags that are being used with them. And it'll give you some top line data on volume if that is important for you. I think what Kristen mentioned for that example, it isn't particularly necessary. And then even for some associations with remote, all remote is a term that we're trying to own as an organization, where it hasn't really hit the lexicon yet, but we're getting a lot of stride because of everything that's been going on in the world lately. For a long time, up until March, and including in March, we were hashtagging variations of remote work, work from home, and all remote in our posts so that we can get that hashtag associated with the generic terms, so that we had the hashtag we can own regardless of the volume of it. And we started to see some strides in that, where people were using, there was somebody's website for remote jobs actually opened a section and named it all remote because GitLab uses that term for the way that we run our organization. So we can see how those terms helped. But I'll link you to the website in the document as well. And that should answer your question and help you. And if not, you can always ping us on Slack.
Yeah, and if you are working on that specific campaign, I do actually, so we use Sprout as a publishing and listening tool, and I actually created a specific social listening query, if you will, for that specific campaign. And that's how I was able to actually see that, ironically, I was finding that GitLab was being found more with hashtag GitOps than it actually was than infrastructure as code. So that's definitely something our team is working on. That was a really great question. Will, thanks for jumping in there.
Thank you.
Thank you. So
And yes.
Kristen, I'm going to give you a time check real quick. You have
Yes, I was going to say I should
14
move on.
minutes. Yep.
All right, so spirit of time, we're going to move forward because we need to get to Twitter. And again, will answer any questions. I just gotta exit that doc. Okay, so Twitter is a platform that is intended to fit into your everyday life. So a common misconception about Twitter is that there's a right or wrong way to use it. That would kind of be like saying there's a right or wrong way to have a conversation. That said, we do have some social tips and tricks that will help you get started. So first, I want you to take notice that my profile picture and my header on Twitter are actually the same as my LinkedIn. This is a very simple way to start building out your personal brand or your digital footprint, if you will. Your Twitter bio is a short and sometimes categorical way to introduce yourself and set your tone. Also keep in mind that your Twitter bio is actually limited to 160 characters. That's shockingly shorter than a tweet. So by incorporating a few words and emojis, you want to make sure that the Twitterverse knows what you do or what to expect when they follow you. That's why including the right keywords is critical for a Twitter bio. The keywords you have in your bio is actually how you'll start to pop up in the top of Twitter searches. So in my example here, I followed that category format where I list off things like social media, GitLab, where I went to college, and of course, my guilty pleasure of The Bachelor. So anyone following me knows right away that my content will probably include social media best practices, GitLab updates, and of course, tweets on Monday nights about the most dramatic season ever. I always like to call this out for people new to social because I think it's really important to remember that the best profiles are authentically you. The last thing you would ever want is for your profile to just be a simple copycat version of the brand that you work for. Okay, so that's enough about my profile. I want to give a little shout out, or RT, if you will, to Nicole Schwartz. What I like about Nicole's Twitter is that it truly blends career and an authentic personality like a perfect cup of tea. But seriously, Nicole doesn't just tweet about the tech industry and GitLab. It was easily understood that Nicole has a passion for tea. I honestly found myself scrolling for brewing methods and different blends on this feed. Okay, so now that you have your Twitter bio written and you know the content themes, how do you write a terrific tweet? On Twitter, keep it simple, short and sweet. Social isn't about overcomplicating things. Remember that the same tagging, hashtagging, and engaging rules apply on Twitter as they do with LinkedIn. But you will, however, find on Twitter that with a URL, your character count is especially limited. This is because Twitter is supposed to be straight to the point, and it's also intended to be used in your everyday life. So if you do feel like the character limit is stopping you from getting your point across, I encourage you to use these next tips. First, you would use Bitly. That's a free URL shortener. That will save you a lot of characters, honestly. And then next, I encourage you to utilize a tweet thread. In this example, I was attending an event, but I saw the opportunity to share one of GitLab's recent blog posts. So after crafting my original tweet, I clicked that add tweet button and related it back to a panel session that I was sitting in on. This is a great example to show you the multiple tweet formats, what a tweet thread can look like, and also a proper tagging strategy. Anyone following GitLab, liking this example, or even the speakers, they would now see this post in their newsfeed. And of course, anyone following or searching the hashtags open source, remote, KubeCon, hashtag cloud native con, they would also see it in their newsfeed. Okay, so now we'll quickly run through this activity. It's the same activity as last time. So if you can follow along in a separate window and have your Twitter profile open, you would click Profile on the bottom left of your screen, and that will be sitting under the word Lists. So first, what are some things on your Twitter profile that you want to keep? Again, you can type these answers directly into the chat feature of this platform. And we're going to quickly go through this one. The bio. And then just for the sake of time, we'll move on. You can type your answers in again. What are some things on your profile that you want to keep? Again, you can type these answers into the chat feature. Oh, actually, what are some of the things that you can plan that you can usually change or add? Essentially, what will get you tweeting after today? Buffer is a great tool. Someone just mentioned that. There's also things called like TweetDeck, Buffer. Those are things you can definitely check out. Even Hootsuite has a free version. Yes, becoming more personable is so crucial for Twitter. That is honestly the point of Twitter, because it's supposed to be like a fluid conversation and much like a community. A new handle. You are able to add, if you need instructions on how to change your handle, drop a question into the docs and I can walk you through that. I've changed my handle before, so no worries there. Okay, all right, so just for the sake of time, we'll keep going. Now we're going to break for any Twitter specific questions. If you haven't already, type your questions into that chat feature, type your questions into that document, please. And again, I will, for the sake of time, we're only going to be able to probably verbalize one question, but then again, we'll answer those questions in the doc directly. I will look for any Twitter questions. Let's see. Oh, and we're on to the second page. Okay. Let's have Chad verbalize their question. You would click the blue participate button of this platform, and then just for the sake of time, we'll answer all the other questions in the doc.
In a few seconds.
Great.
We have about 6 minutes, Kristen, as a
I might have to talk really fast.
You do that well. Hey, Chad.
Hello.
Hi, Chad.
It worked.
Yeah.
So I'm an engineer. Branding, like showing off code, is the only form of branding I do.
Yes,
like instead of cleaning up my LinkedIn when I got hired at GitLab, I like wrote my resume as a single page interactive web app.
That's cool.
But I've always wondered, like, especially if I get involved in side projects in the future where it may matter more, like if I post political on Twitter, like retweeting AOC or, you know, something more towards the liberal side, how much would that possibly hurt people as opinions of me or end of, especially like if I'm answering technical questions on GitLab, how much does that matter?
So I would say Twitter is the platform for that. And that is where something will change. That's a big difference between LinkedIn and Twitter. So Twitter is that everyday life. It's your blending your personality and all the things that you're passionate and care about. I'm sure there are people that probably roll their eyes when I'm tweeting on Monday nights about The Bachelor, but that's a genuine thing that I find that's fun, and it's a part of me. I watch it with my friends. So as long as you're engaging in the conversation in a respectful way, you should never hide your true passions, especially on Twitter, because it's literally supposed to be a conversation that's happening. I would obviously probably recommend to not be using like inappropriate language, or if there's inappropriate like visuals that come with those conversations. And then I also would love actually for Will to pop in here, because Will's Twitter is a perfect example of this. He's very passionate about climate change and amongst other things.
I think in the interest of time, and we can talk more offline, Chad, if you want to do it in more in detail, it is really just to take Kristen's concepts of being authentic. It is more important for your Twitter followers and for your audience to talk about your emotions and your positives and even some negatives about your work, about your life, about politics, about career, about anything that you're really passionate about that makes up who you actually are. That is exactly the platform for it. And that shouldn't necessarily be, you know, you're hate tweeting people or you're always complaining about things, but you do want to make sure that you're expressing who you really are and how you actually feel about things that are going on around you or that you feel passionate about. It's not always the most professional and it's not always the most clean, but it still shows who Chad really is. So, and at the end of the day, that's super important.
So even when I'm like answering on behalf of GitLab, I shouldn't worry that I have that stuff on my profile as long as it's
Absolutely not.
some measure of respectability. Okay.
Right.
I just wouldn't, you know, drop your political views in the answer.
Right.
Yeah, don't mix them in the same tweet.
Yeah, you want to keep your conversations
Don't
like
cross the
teams.
streams.
Exactly. All right, so if you could just remember
Okay.
to click that leave button at the top right, and we will move on. And again, sorry for questions that were answered, or answer them in the doc. Okay, so very quickly, our last tip is to start connecting and share your knowledge. Social media is about building relationships and exchanging ideas. This is more important than ever. As one of the realities of a pandemic is a lot of the things we used to experience and do in person are experienced now virtually. So I want you all to leave here today with some homework. Select a topic you are comfortable talking about, and then choose a platform you are most confident in. I can't speak for you, but for me, ever since the recent work from home movement, I've had previous colleagues, friends, family, and even alumni reach out to me for remote work tips. So I'm currently crafting up a blog for my LinkedIn profile, and I'm actively responding to my networks with my own tips. So whether it's a LinkedIn comment or post, even a text, or a Facebook message, I'm slowly building up to a bigger story to tell. What will your story be? I just want to thank everyone for attending my session today. And again, please feel free to use that document to ask questions, make comments, and we will make sure to get you answers throughout the day.